Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending the Enactus Canada Regional Exposition. My name is Mike Wall, and on behalf of Enactus Canada, I want to thank you all for tuning in today. I was part of the Enactus program at Memorial as an entrepreneur, so happy to be back today. I'd like to officially kick off the Enactus Alumni Spotlight Series, proudly presented by the RBC Foundation in support of RBC Future Launch. I've had the pleasure of chatting with three of Atlantic Canada's impressive Enactus alumni. We're going to start today with Emily Bland. Emily was a student at Memorial University where she was the president of her Enactus team. While on the team, she started Project Succeed and continues to run this initiative today as an alumna of the program. Now, let's hear from Emily as she tells us all about her career journey and taking an Enactus project to new heights. Hey, Emily, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Mike?
That's great. I knew you from all the Enactus programming. When you guys do the Enactus, I was doing the student entrepreneur. So we've known each other for a long time. It's great to see you.
Definitely Newfoundland's a small province.
Is it ever? Is it ever? So maybe you should tell everybody about where you went to school and what program for Enactus you were involved in.
For sure. So I joined the Enactus Memorial team at Memorial University in St. John's, Newfoundland in 2012, mostly because I wanted to get some more friends and I was moving away from a small community. Fell in love with it. So was with the team my entire 5 years of university doing an accounting degree. Had the opportunity to travel to multiple World Cups and do project work and just fell in love with the idea that a small group of students, no matter where you are in the world, could truly make a huge impact.
Right. And your project was different than some other students because you ended up making the project your career and your business. Can you tell me about your business?
Yeah. So during my last 2 years of the Enactus team, I had the opportunity to be the team's president, and we were looking for a project that we could do here locally in Newfoundland that made a sustainable difference. Fell upon the issues of food security, which was really close to my heart growing up as a third generation farmer. Our big goal when we started our project was we wanted to give 15 indoor hydroponic gardens. So we designed an easy to use, affordable way to grow fresh produce indoors with what we thought was a lofty goal of putting 15 across Northern Labrador. And I fell in love with the work that we were doing. We got our gardens across Canada and we were really building something that was near and true to my heart. And I was graduating university, getting ready to sign on to be an accountant with Ernst & Young, had my job contract signed, and then quit my job because I couldn't leave Succeed.
Right, right. And I mean, you've had a lot of amazing memories since that. You created the concept and it's now turned into your day-to-day and your business, and that's continuing to grow. Was there any particular memory that sort of stood out to you as you were developing the project?
Uh, the first time that we actually grew produce in Northern Labrador and actually got to see those bright green vegetables actually growing and happening. More recently, one of our best moments was going through COVID. We actually set up a 50 system indoor growing facility here with one of the local nonprofits. And there was three of us that were from the Succeed team all working on the project. We were all in Enactus together, saw it from day one, and to see just kind of this full room set up that was actually making a big difference for not only the nonprofit we were working with, but the people who were going to get to eat that food. It was really special.
Well, it's such a relevant topic here, particularly for Newfoundland. Food security is such a big thing. It's probably a great place to be working on a project like that. How has it evolved and where has it taken you to today?
Yeah, so it's evolved quite a bit. When we first started, we were mostly focused in rural, remote communities, which is still at the heart of what we did. In 2016, we made the switch to be focused heavy into the educational space. So saw this as a great opportunity to teach next generation leaders about food security, about healthy eating, sustainable agriculture, and waste reduction. So created this incredible program that's run with over 20,000 students across Canada right now, actually empowering them to grow fresh produce themselves. More recently, because of COVID, we've had a whole new light placed on food security and the importance here in our province. So we're actually in the process of taking what we did in a 2 foot, 3 foot, 2 foot by 3 foot square location and making that significantly bigger. So going into the large scale food production space.
Well, I love hearing that, being involved in health and wellness here in the
Yeah.
province and knowing that people can have fresh produce. I remember during Snowmageddon, we couldn't get any boats in. So people who didn't have any fresh produce for weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I think about Enactus, there's a few words that come to mind. It's collaboration, passion, and engagement. You know, you had to live those values to be as successful as you were in Enactus, but how did those carry through in other aspects of your career?
For me, in a way, it's made me understand that work doesn't have to be work all the time. So many of my friends or family members and people that are more further in their career, I have a lot who they constantly complain that work's a stressor and that it's a lot of negativity surrounding it. But because of what I saw that we could accomplish through Enactus and the passion, and that it doesn't have to always feel like hard work, it doesn't have to always be something negative. We've redesigned how we approach work in general, from our working hours to the types of people that we hire. And I've said it from day one, if you're not excited to come to work on Monday morning, you don't belong on our team.
You know, from somebody who's been able to see a challenge, solve it, what advice would you give to the next generation of Enactus students that are coming up through?
The sky's the limit and just do it. I remember going through Enactus and the opportunities that you get from Enactus is incredible. I got to travel to Haiti and South Africa and China and London, and you get to meet the CEOs of Unilever and Enactus and leverage those opportunities because they don't come around every day. We get used to it in our Enactus bubble that this is just the way it is, but outside of Enactus, it isn't. And there's no better time in your life to take a chance and try and change something and try and build something than when you're in this Enactus ecosystem, because there's a long legacy of incredible entrepreneurs that started Enactus. They got their backbone there. So in my opinion, there's almost this extra layer of trust that if you're in the Enactus program, you know what it means to start from ground zero, you're hardworking, and you know how to build in your heart big, incredible, impactful projects. Mm-hmm. So take what you learn and that passion that Enactus gave you and create something, because there's no better time than when you're going through university and you're tied into all of these ecosystems and networks.
Entrepreneurs like to be creative by nature. So if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing instead?
Honestly, I don't know if there's anything else in the world that would make me as happy as what I'm doing right now. The book Alchemist was revolutionary for me, about the world's always pointing you in the right place. And when you figure out where it is you're supposed to be, it just feels right. Mm-hmm. And as stressful as it is to be an entrepreneur, there was this calming feeling that I got, especially with Succeed, that this is the right place, the right time. This is where I'm supposed to be. Mm-hmm. So if it wasn't Succeed proper, I'd be somewhere in the agricultural space, helping to grow food, helping to build networks to get distribution out to people so that everyone has access to fresh produce. That's my personal mission and where I think I will spend the next 50 years of my life.
Fantastic. Well, I think you've got a lifetime of work ahead of you, so that's great. Okay, I know you quite well. We've been friends for a long time, but what are two things that I might not know, or even your friends might not know about you, that you could share with us?
One, I was awarded a trophy growing up for being the fastest egg packer in Atlantic Canada.
Impressive.
So growing up on an egg farm, packing eggs was something that I despised doing. It was exhausting. It was time consuming. We packed 60,000 in a morning. But what an award for it, which is pretty interesting.
Amazing.
And second, I'm an avid ultimate Frisbee player. So love sports, love getting out there and staying active. And Frisbee, for some reason, has been my jam lately.
All right, Emily. So you have a really unique perspective, and that's because you not only did a project as a student, but now you're doing that same project as a business in your career. Why is that such a unique perspective?
So it's pretty different, in my opinion, because when we start a lot of these Enactus projects, we don't think it's our forever thing that we're going to do. It's typically a finite amount of time. You have clear deliverables that you're going to do in a certain period of time, and what success looks like to you is defined from the start. The two biggest changes that I saw from going from the volunteer side to making the full-time career. The first is the stress and the seriousness around it, to be honest. So going through university, if I got really busy one week or our team got busy, it wasn't the end of the world. No one's financial system or financial situations were on the line, versus now that it is a business, there are 7 incredible people that are dependent on us being successful and continuing to build, because they've given up career path to join us as well. And the second one is the scalability of it, making that transition from volunteer to standalone business and social enterprise. It brought a lot of support that we might not have had before. So when we were going through the volunteer side of things, it was donations that had gotten us through. People were helping it because they thought it was an ambitious group of students. We were doing great work. As soon as we made the switch into standalone business, it opened up a whole new world of financing, and a whole new level of seriousness in terms of what people thought we could do and how fast we could grow and scale.
I couldn't be happier chatting with you today. So thank you so much for taking the time and going through all of our questions, and good luck with your venture as it continues to grow.
Thank you, Mike.
After hearing from someone who's founded a small business, we now want to talk to somebody who's launched their career in the corporate world. Nick Hounsell is a branch manager at Royal Bank of Canada, but before that, he was a student at Memorial University and a member of their Enactus team. Here's our conversation. That's right. Well, I know obviously where you went to school and did your Enactus sort of experience, but can you give the listeners a little rundown on where you went to school and when you graduated?
For sure. Well, as proud Newfoundlanders and Labradorians, happy to share that I'm a proud alumni of Memorial University in Newfoundland. Graduated from our Bachelor of Commerce program with our Faculty of Business there in 2011, and 5 years with Enactus, and it was an amazing time.
I mean, you had quite a run when you were there with the Enactus program as well. There was a lot of team dynamics. One of the questions people really need to know is, like, how does that team dynamics from Enactus sort of transfer to your new career?
Yeah, that's a great question. And sometimes I actually stop and pause and reflect on it, because when you're in an environment where some skills tend to occur naturally to you, you're wondering, where did you get that experience before? When working with Enactus, it was really neat. You're working with a group of volunteers, but you're also trying to find ways to inspire and motivate each other. You're trying to find ways to hold each other accountable, but in a different way, but also working together to achieve that goal. And in a corporate space, you're also trying to find a way where you can work with people you haven't known. There's different motivating factors, but it's been pretty incredible to be able to take those ways of working with others, effective communication, building a sustainable plan, and being able to make sure you get good engagement from everybody. From a volunteer situation to corporate, those skills are pretty transferable, and it's been definitely a perk that you didn't realize you were getting while in school, for sure.
That's right, and you just hit on it. You're in the corporate world. What do you do currently?
Well, I work for the Royal Bank of Canada, and currently serving as a branch manager in our Metro Halifax market now. And prior to that, did a little bit of work in project management and strategy for them as well in business banking, which is pretty neat. And before that, spent some time working with entrepreneurs, which was one of the main reasons I got involved in Enactus in the first place, and spent some time in business banking before that. So it's been a pretty interesting alignment for sure.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds like alignment, but also a really broad group of experiences in the same corporate sort of structure. When you look back at your Enactus experience, was there one moment or memory that really stood out to you?
There's a lot. And over 5 years and some of the great things that we were able to accomplish as a team, we had a lot of incredible memories. And we could talk a lot about some of the incredible moments we shared with, our regionals and nationals and world experiences, meeting with other teams. But some of the community work we did was the stuff that really sticks. Some of the times and the moments where you really know you help people. And I spent a lot of time in my time in Enactus working with senior citizens, doing some fraud programs. And the impact we had, but the camaraderie we had with the team in terms of how we were going out there and helping people, I think that just sticks with me. And just that feel good about giving back to the community, that always sticks together. And I really look fondly back on the work we did and really proud of the impact we made. And I think that's really what sticks with me the most. But too many good memories to really count to start down from. We need more than 15 minutes together.
Right. And I know those projects, and they were impactful, especially the community. And when you think about the Enactus experience, some of the principles are collaboration and passion and engagement. How did sort of experiencing those things in real life through the Enactus program transfer to what you do in day-to-day life now?
Well, yeah, it's a good question. And not to get too corny, but when you find how you get ignited by something you're passionate about, and when you can find how you can align something that interests you and it really aligns well with your values, and you start saying, okay, let's just go and gear into it. And I think the first time in my life that I had an experience where I said, wow, this is something that I can get involved with and make an impact and grow and learn. But it really ignited a passion in me to work with others, to lead people, which I do now, to help teams achieve success. And you don't really realize the energy you get from working with other people or leading a team success or making an impact in the community. But it kind of hooked me with that bug. And I would say that those three key pieces of, engagement, communication, collaboration, those are integral success skills, no matter where you go, but very transferable. And I think those three things I would probably use to describe ways of which I probably interact in the workplace. And I think it just made me help become part of who I am. So I definitely agree, but those three things really stand out to me for sure.
All right. And they really help you when you're trying to solve problems. And sometimes you get given really big problems and really big challenges. Can you give me an example of probably one of your biggest challenges you faced? And then what advice would you give to somebody who might be facing it? Because inevitably somebody else listening to this who's coming up is going to be hitting the same roadblocks you did.
So I think there's a couple of things, and we could probably start from any kind of workplace challenge and scenario. But sometimes I really am a passionate believer that the biggest challenge can sometimes be internal. And sometimes we can think about imposter syndrome and can you do it? And do you have the skills? And can you make a difference? And is this higher or above your potential? And how are you going to achieve? And does that scare you or not? All those elements of what you could potentially hold yourself back from in terms of that internal conflict of am I good enough? I would say that's a challenge that any young Canadian's facing right now, because there's a lot of barriers about the right networks, the right skills, resiliency, and of course, the right approach in terms of being successful. So I think your 3 to 5 year windows, the jobs you're not sure if you should apply for, the opportunities you want to stick your hand up in the air for. I'd say my biggest challenge was making sure when I looked around a room of people who had 10, 15, 20, 25 years of experience to start trusting yourself and giving yourself a chance to put your hand up and put yourself out there and be comfortable being uncomfortable. But I think my biggest recommendation is Enactus gave me the confidence to stick my hand up there and believe in myself. And that's helped me be successful so far. So that's where I lean on that one.
There's a next generation of students coming up through, right? And they're probably going to go through experience and come out of it with the same sort of passion towards Enactus and loyalty that we have from, it giving us so much. What personal advice would you pass on to the kids that want to get involved with the program now?
Do it for sure. Don't look back. Green light, go. I actually had the same reservations. There was actually an individual who was graduating from the Enactus team whose family knew my family, and they said, your son definitely should get involved in this, definitely recommend it. And they kind of pointed out to me. That's how I got involved, to be honest. And I was intimidated. This team is doing a whole pile of work. What do you do? My advice would be hop in and find something that's interesting to you. Not every project or not every initiative might be your interest, but how can you contribute to the bigger picture? Because the experience of what you'll be exposed to, how you'll collaborate with people, the challenges you'll face, and the skills you just naturally learn out of, like you said, necessity of being involved in accomplishing something, you're going to learn and grow. I actually feel my time in Enactus added more value to my undergraduate degree than just doing my degree like everybody else. And I think that practical hands-on learning that isn't part of a curriculum is invaluable. So I would highly recommend folks to find something they're passionate about and find a way to get that involved in the volunteer community. And hopefully that's with Enactus, but if it's with something else, that's great too.
It's been great chatting with you. You're a heck of a communicator. It's been great to see you. Thanks for taking the time today.
I really appreciate it, Mike. Take care of yourself and enjoy. Thanks.
All right, buddy. Take care. And lastly, we have Akram Alatumi. While a student at Dalhousie University, he founded the Enactus team on campus. I didn't think we had enough time to fully discuss all the roles that Akram has taken on. He's a professor, he runs a tech startup, he does business development with several organizations in Halifax, including a hub for healthcare-focused entrepreneurs and more. Now for my conversation with Akram. Hey, Akram, great to see you.
Hi, good to see you, and thank you for having me.
You're calling from all the way overseas today.
Yes, I'm calling from Cairo in a family emergency, but I'm glad to be here with you.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you could take the time because we're talking about something that's really important to both of us because we're both Enactus alumni. You were involved in Enactus for a number of years. Where did you go to school? When did you participate? Give me the lowdown.
I actually founded Enactus at Dalhousie University, and I think that was 2011, 2012, back then when I did my undergrad. It's definitely one of my favorite years during university, and that's when all it started with Enactus.
So I know you're involved in a lot of different things, and one of the key skills people need to have when they work in the Enactus program is to be dynamic. How has what you learned in the Enactus program assisted you with what you do in your day-to-day now?
Enactus really helped me with so many different skills, to learn so many different skills. One of them is how we can start a project together as a team. When you start a project from scratch as a team, you learn so much. You learn a lot about operations. You learn a lot about team dynamic and chemistry between team members, and how skills that complement each other can work together, how we can use our strengths and our weaknesses to our advantage. And I think that collaboration and that kind of teamwork, supportive teamwork that we learned through Enactus really supported me in founding my projects and my own startups, working within bigger organizations or corporations, working within university, and also fostering and supporting others to start their own businesses through the innovation technology hub that I'm leading. So definitely, it's a very crucial skill that helped me in so many different points.
Right on. Well, you're a very busy guy, and that's important to have good people. And that's one of the things the Enactus program teaches people is how to balance a lot of different things. They're going to school, they're working on projects. So I can see why you'd pull those people to your team. Now, one of the things that Enactus also gives people are some amazing memories. Is there one particular memory that really stands out to you from your experience in the program?
Yeah, I would like many memories.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are like, the moment of see, like, that's a hard question, actually, because there are so many memories, like some of them during the actual event, like World Cup and regionals and, nationals and all the competing teams. But, it's competition, but also we agree that it's not.
Mm-hmm.
So we really, strive to do the best for our community, for our people, to make a difference. And that's what actually, build into the culture of Enactus, that it's not necessarily, it's kind of the positive side of competition. Mm-hmm. Because you strive to be the best, but for the right reasons, for supporting people, for supporting communities. And that's mentality I took forward into the world of business, and also into the courses that I teach at the universities. People can do well by doing good. You can still, live a great life that support a lot of people.
Well, and that's great advice for people to sort of embrace these characteristics and to add them into day-to-day life and to find your passion. But do you have any sort of words of wisdom for students that are coming up through the Enactus program, sort of the next generation that's coming through?
I would say people need to observe sometimes, like, when a person really need to look within their skills and take their time and observes their weaknesses. It takes courage and a high level of humbleness, or being humble, to actually understand your flaws, because sometimes ego is your biggest enemy. Like people's ego is the biggest enemy. So I think taking your time and reflect and understanding your flaws and being okay with having flaws, so you actually can brainstorm ways to improve and adapt. And that word is key, is to adapt and also improve these kind of weak points that we have. But again, we need to have a really a deep thinking in order to actually understand these weak points, and sometimes we are not aware of them.
One of the things I'd also like to ask is that you're still in school, so you teach all the time, so you're always learning. You sound like you're a lifelong learner. But if you were to go back to your undergrad or your other school, your grad school, or whatever you've done in the past, and say, I'm going to add one or two other areas of interest that I never thought would be valuable, which would be really valuable today, what would they be?
Honestly, I don't want to sound, but, I would say more time with Enactus, more time.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why. Applied learning is extremely important. I was part of a co-op program. I, would study for like 4 months and then go the next 4 months. It was like the first 8 months, 2 semesters, and then the third one, I would go and do an actual applied full-time job. Mm-hmm. But what I have noticed is basically a lot of the components or sections of or chapters or skills that we developed through the schoolwork would be forgotten by the time we start. It's not like you don't practice this, like you don't apply the work right away. You have to wait for like 8 months. Mm-hmm. With Enactus, I have that experience of like, we understand that in class, and then we apply it the next day because we're working with a group. With Enactus is a real applied experience. I don't have to wait for 8 months to do it. And people have different learning skills or learning styles. This is my learning style. I learn by doing. Mm-hmm. And I think that kind of mentality helped me a lot of learning what I during school. Even in my assignments, I did some of the assignments was part of the Enactus projects that I have done back then in the undergrad. So if I would recommend them to do something differently during university, is to do their best to focus on applied learning.
So Akram, just one more thing before we go, not quite as critical as maybe some of the other questions, but I always like to find this out about folks that I'm interviewing. If you were to have a superpower, what would it be?
I would say to be able to influence or to implement peace and prosperity. We live in a different times. I'm originally from Yemen. It's a war zone. So if I would have, I would go and make a difference there.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great answer, and that is a unique answer.
No problem. And I'm actually, proud to be Canadian, but definitely from a Yemeni background as well. And I think these superpowers makes a difference.
Right. And well, so we talked about today, it's all of our experiences make us who we are today. And so thank you very much for taking the time. I know you're really busy, but it's really important to share your message to everybody. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Again, we want to thank you for tuning in, and we hope that you enjoyed meeting some of our impressive alumni, learning about their journey and how Enactus impacted their lives. Thank you once again to RBC Foundation in support of RBC Future Launch for sponsoring this Enactus Canada Alumni Spotlight Series. Enjoy the rest of the Enactus Canada Regional Exposition.